What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my builds guide and unit review of Ingrid, Felix, Rhea and Sylvain. So Rearmed Ingrid is the new Lance Flyer and she does provide Arcane Lewin as the inedible Arcane Lance. I've made an entire video going over the best users of it, but yeah, this is basically a pretty solid arcane weapon giving you -1 special cooldown and then giving you +5 to all of your stats and true damage based on 20% of your speed, including the AoE specials, and then it ignores the visible buffs of the opponent's speed and defense, and finally it does give you full null follow-up if you do have more speed than the opponent. So this is going to be an amazing weapon for Ingrid because she does have really high speed of base 47 and she also has really solid attack at base 44, which does have a super boon. So she's going to be using Arcane Lewin really well and she's going to be able to stand out compared to a lot of the Lance Flyers because of her slotty skill Knightly Devotion, which is her exclusive skill, and this does enable the near trace effect. So her slot B skill is a lot more flexible now, which is really good because she can easily run guard bearing without too much of an opportunity cost, and Knightly Devotion does give her +8 to all of her stats and also neutralizes any kind of penalties on her, which is really good because she doesn't really care about any kind of debuffs, and after the combat she's able to restore 7 HP to herself. So she's able to have a pretty nice self-sustain with this. And Guard Bearing 4 is the new tier 4 skill that we have got, which has actually improved quite a lot. So it inflicts -4 speed and defense debuff on the foe in the combat, and then you can get 60% damage reduction on the first combat in the enemy phase, otherwise you get 30% damage reduction. So you actually get 30% damage reduction even in your player phase, which is really good because previously Guard Bearing 3 was purely an enemy phase skill, but now you can have 30% damage reduction not only in the enemy phase but also in the player phase, and that 60% damage reduction in the first combat in the enemy phase is going to be huge for the survival, especially on a fast unit like this who does have null follow-up with her weapon and is going to be, really fast with that base 47 speed. And then she's got even more stats with Knightly Devotion and she can inflict the debuffs with Guard Bearing and Speed Defense Hold. So overall this Ingrid is going to be trying to function like a mixed phase flyer. She is going to be having pretty solid player phase but also in the enemy phase because of Guard Bearing and because of the sheer amount of speed debuffs that she can do and the extra stats she's able to get. She's going to be able to, tank a lot of hits because of the damage reduction, but keep in mind the damage reduction from Guard Bearing is pierceable by Deadeye, Lethality and those kinds of specials, so you have to watch out for that. In the future, she's also going to be able to use any kind of slot B skill a lot easily because she already has Near Trace in her slot A and null follow-up from her weapon, so she doesn't really need to run a Near Trace skill in the slot B or run a flow skill. So overall this Ingrid is definitely going to be pretty solid and also provides amazing fodder. And if you're foddering off her for Guard Bearing 4, then here are some of the examples that you can run this on. Guard Bearing 4 is going to be useful on faster units because of the speed debuff that you can get, and Chloe is easily one of the better users of Guard Bearing 4 because of the flat damage reduction that she can get out of her weapon. And because you're not running Pegasus Flight 4, you can just run Attack Smoke 4 and still have the follow-up negation. And Spring Maria can also run this because she again has the true damage reduction just like Chloe, so this is going to be a really good slot B skill for her. And then a bulky flyer like Thea can also run this skill and stack it up with Sweet Smoke 4 and get even more damage reduction. If you're going to be building up Ingrid, then she can function fine with her base kit and you can just give her the speed refine. Arcane weapons can be refined, so do not forget about that. But if you want to go more the player phase route, then she can definitely run Dive Bomb. And Dive Bomb is going to be having good synergy with the null follow-up that you get from Arcane Lewin, because you're going to be able to bypass any kind of follow-up negation effects and easily double most of the opponents. And then you can trigger your special on the double attack, so Moonbow is definitely going to be a pretty good special here. That could be run with a more player phase centric build, but still at the end of the day, Ingrid is going to be functioning like a mixed phase flyer, so you can definitely, just try and build off that and also give her Speed Smoke 4, which is going to be stacking up with the damage reduction of Guard Bearing 4, and it's definitely one of the better slotsy skills that you can run on her. And you can also run Speed Defense Catch on her, and IOT Shield is also an option. Her Sacred Seal is definitely pretty flexible and you can run a lot of other Sacred Seals as well. And this is something that you can do for higher investment on Ingrid, as she's definitely going to be appreciating the Speed Smoke damage reduction and the debuff that it can do, which will be stacking up with the in-combat debuff of Guard Bearing and the extra stats that she already gets from her weapon and slot A. Felix is finally here as his sword infantry unit, and he does have Lone Wolf as his preferred weapon. This gives him -1 special cooldown, and at start of turn or at start of the combat, if he's at or above 25% HP, then he can get special cooldown count -2. If his special cooldown is at max, or if it's just below like the maximum special cooldown count, then he can get -1 special cooldown. So this is like an insane pre-charging method that he has got in his weapon, which is not only going to be pre-charging his special before the combat, but also after the combat. So this way, Godlike Reflexes, his special, is always going to stay pre-charged, which is going to be really helpful. And because of having Godlike Reflexes pre-charged, he's going to be able to have that damage reduction from it consistently. And then at start of combat, if he's at or above 25% HP, then he can get +5 to all of his stats, and also gets 30% damage reduction from the regular attacks and also from the AoE specials. And finally, if he's not adjacent to an ally, and if he's solo, then he can inflict -5 attack speed and defense debuff on the foe in the combat. So pretty much he can get +10 to all of his stats with this weapon, and then get a lot of special shenanigans going on with this weapon so that he can always keep his Godlike Reflexes pre-charged. He also comes with attack speed Bulwark 3, which are really good skills for a fast unit like this, and he's able to get a lot of healing out of it as well. So he's going to be staying healthy, and then he can get even more damage reduction out of Speed Smoke 4. So overall, I would say that Felix is easily one of the top tier God Sword units that we have got, and he's going to be performing really well as a consistent Godlike Reflexes user, and he's basically the best Godlike Reflexes user in the game because of this kind of weapon, which can give him these special charges and always keep it active. And because of this kind of damage reduction, and because of his amazing high speed of base 46 and base 46 attack, he's going to be able to function as an Omni tank and as a God Sword unit with a lot of damage reduction. The main thing is that he doesn't really have null follow-up, so you pretty much need to give that to him from Sacred Seal or from some external source like Infantry Null Follow-up or Speed Tactic 4. So if he can get null follow-up, then that is going to be really beneficial to him because he doesn't really want to get doubled by the auto follow-up units, which are going to be slower than him. And he wants to stack up as much damage reduction and as much speed as he possibly can to function as a good God Sword. So he's a top tier unit and also a top tier fodder with the skills that he brings in, and he's going to be in the permanent summon pool, so he's definitely one of the pity breakers that I don't think many people are going to be minding getting because his fodder is just absolutely amazing and gives you so much value. If you're going to be building a Felix, then he can function with his base kit and null follow-up Sacred Seal. Null follow-up Sacred Seal is pretty important because unlike Lucia, he doesn't really have that in his weapon. So he really needs this effect so that he can function like a God Sword and not really get doubled by the auto follow-ups and also bypass the follow-up negation effects. So it's a really important effect for Felix. So if you're not giving this as the Sacred Seal, then provide it to him externally through some other skill. And you can even run this in the slot B actually and just speed stack even more with a solo Sacred Seal. But the ideal build for him is definitely going to be using a tier 4 damage reduction skill like Close Call 4 or Repel 4. And whenever, Frenzy 4 comes out, that could also work out with him. So by having Close Call 4, it is going to be giving him even more damage reduction. But on top of that, you also get the speed and defense debuff on the opponent and also the phantom speed effect. And units like Felix are going to be, winning by their speed stat alone. So it's very important to stack up the speed on them, and the phantom speed is going to be really helpful, along with the damage reduction that he can stack with the speed smoke and also the Godlike Reflexes and his weapon. So this is the ideal build, I would say, that he could run on him, and this is also something that he could run in some duels and use him like a raid boss unit and maybe give him the bonus doubler from Legendary Eliwood and also give him the null follow-up status effect. So that is going to be helping him a lot, and this is a build that you're going to be seeing quite a lot as well because he is going to be really powerful with this build. And if you're going to be using him in Aether Raids offense, then you of course want to run a distant counter skill like Distant Dart in a slot A or just the regular distant counter so that he can retaliate back to the range foes, and you can easily run him as an Omni tank in the light season, similar to how Lucia has been performing for many people. So Close Call 4 here is going to be helping him get more damage reduction. You can also run him with his default Bulwark skill if you do like the healing and also the obstruct effect. So that is also going to be an option, but basically with this build he's going to be able to Omni tank, and you definitely want to support him with the visible status effects that it can provide to him, like the null follow-up status, which is going to be really important to him, especially in Aether Raids offense. Felix's best special is going to be Godlike Reflexes because not only it gives him damage reduction, but this damage reduction is not going to be pierceable by Deadeye or Lethality or any of those specials. So it is really good and he can easily keep this up with his Lone Wolf preferred weapon. But if you want to try some other specials, then you can easily loop Aether, but Godlike Reflexes is overall better. He can also function with Gale Force actually as a Gale Force initiator by running Double Fury, and if you use him with Azure, then his Gale Force cooldown is going to be at 1, which is really easy to charge up. So he can be used in a Gale Force team to initiate the combat and fall into the Wings of Mercy range, and it's going to be pretty easy for him to do that with Double Fury, and also by having Gale Force being already pre-charged by his weapon to 2 cooldown, and then it is brought down to 1 cooldown with Azure. So this is also something that Felix can do, but he's definitely a lot better at Omni tanking than he's at Gale Forcing, I would say, because he doesn't really have that insane firepower that you kind of need for Gale Forcing, which someone like Brave Seliph has, for example. But still you can use him with this build as this option is enabled by his weapon. Rhea is a dragon yet again, and this time she's a colorless infantry dragon with Revealing Breath as the preferred weapon. This gives her -1 special cooldown, and if the foe initiates combat, it is always going to be active in the enemy phase, or if the foe's HP is at or above 75%, then she's able to get +5 to all of her stats, and also the guaranteed follow-up attack, and she's able to inflict the guard effect on the opponent. And then finally, she has got true damage reduction by 30% of her resistance on foes' follow-up attacks. So this is not a consistent true damage reduction like Asker, Brave Dimitri and stuff like that. This is only going to be triggering on the follow-up attacks. So keep in mind that if she's going to be facing Brave attacks from Brave weapon users or Bridal Catria teams, then the Brave hits are not going to be counted as the follow-up attacks, but instead the 3rd and the 4th hit. So you have to keep that in mind while using Rhea and tanking, because she's really amazing as a tank, and especially with her slotted skill Attack Risk Scowl Fodder. So this is a new line of skill that we have got. This is basically the decharging effect that we have seen on Brave Tiki, on Duoduma and Ascended Young Tiki, but as a slotted skill, and this is only limited to dragon units. This skill is always going to be active in the enemy phase, and in the player phase it does need the enemy's HP to be at or above 75% at start of the combat, and then Rhea is able to get +7 attack and resistance in combat, and if the enemy has got an offensive special, then it is going to be doing a resistance check, where if you've got more resistance than foe's resistance +5, then you can decharge opponent's special before their first attack. So this is again reminiscent of what we have seen before on Brave Tiki and Duoduma. So this is basically going to be helping you not get nuked by pre-charged specials like Lethality or Deadeye, and that is really helpful because True Dragon Wall is pierceable by all of those specials. So it is going to be helping you really tremendously in terms of tanking, especially when you have guard effect built into your weapon. So not only you're going to be decharging the opponent's special, but the guard effect is going to be further preventing them from charging up their special. True Dragon Wall is seen before on Fallen Rhea, and it now works even better with the Scowl skill. So basically she can have the Dragon Wall effect and get max 60% damage reduction on her first combat in the player phase or enemy phase, and then after that in the subsequent combats she's going to be having max 40% damage reduction based on her resistance, and she's going to be healing up 7 HP at start of the turn and after the combat if you have a beast or dragon ally on your team. So this is going to be really helpful for the self-sufficiency and also for the damage reduction that she can get. So True Dragon Wall with her Revealing Breath is going to be providing tremendous amount of bulk, especially for the follow-up attacks where the flat damage reduction is going to be active. So True Dragon Wall is going to be active first, and it is going to be reducing damage, and then whatever damage gets left over, it is going to be completely reduced by the flat and the true damage reduction present in her weapon. And for the first attacks that you're going to be facing from the opponents, True Dragon Wall is going to be giving you that damage reduction. Rhea does have pretty amazing resistance at base 46, which is going to be enabling easy usage of the Scowl skill and making sure that he can always decharge the opponent's special. She also has 42 defense and pretty min-max stat spread where she has very low speed at 16, so yeah, she's just going to be getting countered by null follow-up unfortunately, but still she's going to be incredibly bulky with that bulk that she has got and the damage reduction, and also a very good attack stat at base 44. Overall, Rhea is going to be functioning as an amazing tank because of the damage reduction that she can get, and flat damage reduction on the foe's follow-up attacks is going to be incredible with True Dragon Wall, and her kit is really synergetic and works really well with the Scowl skill, and she's going to be having no problem tanking a lot of threats, even on merge or like +1 merge. So she's definitely one of the better dragon units that we've got because of her tanking potential. Attack resistance Scowl, like I said, can be given to any kind of dragon unit. It is only available for the dragon units. It doesn't really have any kind of movement restriction, so even flying dragons can get access to this. And the Scowl skill actually does stack up with the decharging effects of Duo Duma, Brave Tiki, and Ascended Young Tiki, so that is pretty incredible on them. But you can definitely give this to other dragons like Ascended Idun, for example. And now with Armored Beacon and Vengeful Fighter 4, she can function really well, get the breath effect, and also get the auto follow-up out of the fighter skill, and also decharge the opponent with the Scowl skill. So she's going to be functioning really well as a far-safe tank. And then you've got Legendary Mirror, who does have the resistance super boon, so you can definitely use that, and she can also decharge the pre-charge specials and function really well as a tank, and then use the damage reduction from her Dragon Wall. Any kind of Arcane Grima user that does have good enough resistance can definitely try and make use of this skill and just decharge the opponent's special and basically have a much better tanking potential because they're not going to be getting blown up by the specials of the enemies. For building up Rhea on a budget, you can definitely give her Attack Smoke 3 and also just run the Distant Counter Dragon Sacred Seal because she's got incredibly high resistance, so she can easily take on the ranged threats even at Unmerge, and there's no need to not run Distant Counter, so you can easily do that. And if you're going to be investing a bit more into her, then Defense Res Menace or Attack Res Menace can work out. Defense Res Menace is a pretty interesting option on dragon units because they do have the adaptive damage, so that can also work out. And you can also run Attack Res Oath 4 as the Slotsy skill where it can enable the teleportation and also have the visible buffs, which is definitely going to be helping with the Scowl skill and also for the True Dragon Wall damage reduction. So this is definitely the Slotsy skill which I prefer on Rhea. You can even run Attack Smoke 4, but honestly it's not needed because she already has the flat damage reduction by a lot on the foe's follow-up attack, so follow-up negation is really not on that top priority for me personally, and Oath 4 skill is definitely really good. You can also run her with Time Pulse 4 and also have Iceberg, so you can pretty much have Iceberg at 1 cooldown and retaliate back with it, which is going to be doing a lot of damage with her high resistance. And if you're going to be using her in Summoner Duels, then she is mainly going to be functioning as a frontliner, so there she can definitely deal with a lot of threats, including Brave Salif because of the decharging and the True Dragon Wall, so having Pelt Smoke is going to be helpful even more for annoying the opponents in case they pre-charge their specials through duo buttons and stuff like that. So it is going to be really helpful and very annoying for them on top of the Scowl skill and the guard effect that she's got in her weapon. So Pelt Smoke is going to be a nice Slotsy option. And then finally, if you do Plus and Merger, then she's going to be a really amazing arena unit with Distant Counter Dragon, with Blue Flame, and also Attack Res Oath as the Slotsy skill. And she can score as a 200 BST unit, so she's definitely not lacking when it comes to scoring either. Sylvain joins us again as a green unit, as an Axe Cavalier this time, and he unfortunately does not have a preferred weapon, no Lance of Ruin, and instead he has Allied Axe Plus, which does have Joint Drive Attack and Joint Drive Defense built in. So it's a decent weapon, but definitely not like a preferred weapon. And then he has got Attack Defense Catch 3 at 5-star and Spur Attack Defense at 4-star. And unfortunately, Sylvain's stat spread is really awkwardly allocated. It could have been much better if they actually gave him more speed. He has base 35 speed, which is definitely workable, but we have already got many Axe Cavaliers that are just going to be faster than him. Summer Set, for example, and Plagian Male Chris. And Plagian Male Chris is going to be appearing in the Hall of Forms very soon, so people can get the premium skills on him and deck him out fully. So Sylvain definitely does not really reach a very high amount of speed, and instead he has got more defense, which is not the most useful, honestly. Having more speed would have been a lot better for him offensively because we don't really have any kind of arcane weapon for the axes that gives you a guaranteed follow-up attack and is suited for like very slow units. Maybe we could get that in the future, but right now Arcane Downfall doesn't really have an auto follow-up, so you need to speed stack. So in that case, having a bit lower speed is definitely not really all that good. but still you can work out with this Sylvain if you're a big fan of him, and you can just try and build him up to plus and merge, but he's definitely not going to be standing out too much with this kind of stat spread, which is really awkwardly allocated. So if you're going to be building him up on a budget, then you can just give him a Norn with speed, defense, link, and reposition, and he should be doing fine. But if you're investing a bit more into him, then you can definitely try and run Seahorse Axe Plus, which can actually give you an auto follow up, which is really good. So you don't really have to stack up speed if you don't want to, and you can just stack up like attack and defense with attack, defense, catch 4, attack, defense, near trace, and also attack, defense, menace. So he can just be a bulky cavalier and make use of his higher defense compared to other axe cavaliers and make use of that. So this is definitely going to be an option, and you can also use the Pedalfall Vase Plus, as it does give you the null follow-up, which is really good. So if you're going to be going the speed route, and if you don't really have the arcane weapon, then this is basically the best weapon that you can run, especially for a speed stack Sylvain. So you can just try and speed stack with attack, speed, catch, and also have attack, speed, menace, and blade session is going to be also really helpful. And Sylvain needs every single speed point that he can try and get, because nowadays units are going to be insanely fast. He can just ask his friend Felix about that and he'll get an answer. You can also run him with Ninja Massacre, and you can also run Ninja Shuriken if you want to, but I do like the extra speed that you get from Ninja Massacre, because he definitely needs, again, every point of speed that he can get, and because he does have a pretty nice attack set, he can definitely try and quad attack with that, or even use the brave hits to kill opponents. So you can run a more player face centric build with Surge Sparrow, Blade Session, and Flow Guard, and function with the ninja weapon. But the endgame weapon is definitely going to be an arcane weapon, and right now Arcane Downfall is the only arcane axe that is available, so you can give that to him and work as a Gale Force unit because of the special charges he can get. And if you really want to invest into him heavily and up to the max investment, then he can run this kind of build with attack, speed, clash for getting the most amount of speed, and also the attack and speed debuff neutralization, and also flow and trace for the trace effect, as well as the partial null follow-up. And then you can try and just get some damage reduction from Speed Smoke 4, which is only recommended at this kind of max investment, summoner support included and everything, because again, he needs all the speed that he can get, especially with his base speed. So this is going to be the max investment Sylvain for all of the big Sylvain fans. Make sure to share this video with your friends if they're trying to summon on this banner and build up any of these units. And if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to leave a like and a comment. Helps me tremendously, and if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks down below or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more FEH videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Sylvain's preferred weapon. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.